So this question around have you been arrested or have a felony or something like that, depending on the country, once again, could be illegal or it could be a very legal question. I know in many states where I'm from, I have from the United States, it's a legal question that you can ask on a job application. You can actually make the person fill out on the application. But in some states, parts of the country, it's actually illegal to even ask it on the job application. So be aware of the laws around in your state. But it's a very, very common question, usually on the application, because folks don't want to hire folks who are felons or have committed crimes, which, there's a whole societal thing around that as far as coming back into the workforce or overcoming crimes or mistakes that people have made. So if you have something that's like a small type thing, like a speeding ticket, a small misdemeanor, something that wouldn't show up in a background check, you don't have to share the gory details on maybe a mistake you made earlier in your life, especially when it's not applicable anymore, especially if it's not applicable to the job. But if it is something that'll come up, let's say in a background check or something that people are really looking at, some companies do like drug testing, for example, for illegal drugs. If you have something along that, that will come up. I find the best way to answer that, whether it's legal or illegal, is to hit it head on and really talk about it. Not necessarily in the application. If it asks you specifically, you can't lie in the application because it gives the employer an excuse to even terminate you in many cases after you've been hired. But to hit it in an interview head on is a particular way and really describe it. And maybe it's something like, once again, speeding tickets, small misdemeanors. They're not really looking for that. You don't have to say anything about that. If you had a felony or something serious, that you want to hit head on. So let's say I was convicted of stealing from a company. I embezzled, I stole from the company. I might say, yes, I've made one mistake in my whole life, and boy, do I regret it. When I was a young man, I was short on cash and had to pay some student loans, and I made a mistake, and I took some money from my previous employer, and that was terrible. I felt terrible doing it, and I turned myself in, and they did prosecute me, and I did get on probation a little bit. So it'll show up in my record if you do a background check. I was 20 years old. I was dumb, and I've never made that mistake ever again, and I feel horrible about it. And it was just a very small amount. It's like $100 US. And I've not had any issues since then, and been a model employee. In fact, that company would say they would hire me back again too as well, and I can get you some references from that company if you'd like. Be glad to provide that. So yeah, made a mistake, but as you can see with my job history, I've been a star or been great for the last 35 years, and that's why I'll be with your organization. And I'm very glad you asked that because I want to make sure I share that in case there was any type of background checks or things being done, because I certainly encourage that. Okay, so there, I'm showing I don't have anything to hide. I made a mistake. It was a small mistake. Heck, if you have the former employer could even say good things about you, produce a reference, even better. You're trying to mitigate that. And the thing is, if they're doing background checks and it shows a background check, they're going to not offer you the job anyways. So it's better to hit it head on and not lie in that case. You don't want to lie in any case, as we talked about earlier, but really hit anything that might be an issue like that head on, at least face to face in the interview process as you can. The deeper you get in the interview process and you get asked that, that's the time to talk about it. If you're never asked, by the way, you don't have to volunteer this unless it's some type of background thing you're worried about. If you're not asked, you don't have to tell. That's perfectly fine, especially if it's something that's long, long ago in the past. All right, challenging question. Could be illegal in some countries, legal in others, but it's something that a lot of employers really like to know. So be aware and be ready for that if there's any issue. Oh, by the way, most importantly, if you have no issues, there's only one answer to that. And it's like, no, I've never been convicted of anything. That's it. That's all you say. You don't embellish. You don't say, I'm a wonderful person or anything like that. It's not about that. Just say, nope, have no convictions at all. If you have a speeding ticket or a minor or a misdemeanor thing, people don't count that. Just say, no, I have nothing. If they say, we ever caught speeding? Well, yeah, one time I was caught speeding. Yeah, that's not a big deal. They're not going to not hire you because you're caught speeding. So if you don't have any issues, just say, nope, don't have any issues. If you do, and they're small ones, you don't have any issues. If it's something big, especially shows up a background check, thank the employer for asking and giving you the opportunity to talk about that and share why it's not a big deal anymore, and then why you're the perfect candidate.